guess is equal to the G number, which means they got it. We can give them a little inspiration. The first thing we want to do is end the loop. Okay, so the first thing we want to do that is just skip ahead. Set I to the max number of tries. Alright. So that's going to end this loop up here without having to increment through each time. We skipped ahead. So now that we have that done, let's do a little bit of testing. If the max guess is equal to 2000, remember how we set the values to 2000? 2000 is the hardest setting. See, the maximum they can guess out of? 2000 is the hardest setting. So let's say congratulations, you know, you got it on the hardest. So if the max guess is on the hardest setting, we'll tell them, hey, you know, you did it. Great job. Tell them you're impressed, so on and so forth. Alright, now return, play again. If they didn't get it on the hardest setting, remember we're still in this else if, we're still in the else if, and we're embedding another if check. Alright, but there's only going to be one other option. It's either equal to 2000 or it's not. So we're going to do one else. Say, you got it. Try me out on a harder setting. And then ask them if they want to play again. Always give them the option to play again. You don't want them to have Alt F4 or do anything crazy to get out of your program. So we need to close that loop. We need to enclose the last one. We need to enclose the original one, and then we need to close the function. See? We've closed the else if, we closed this one, then we've closed the original for loop here, and then we exit the function completely. You're going to get a warning that not all return statements or return control statements returns a value. Some compilers may not even compile it. If they don't, you put return 0 here. But I keep getting this warning, but I've gone over this code time and time again, and you always exit with one of the return play again functions. Always. There's no way to run out here. Visual Studio 2008 sees that as an error, or a warning anyway, not an error. But don't worry about that. Believe me, it's perfectly fine. Your compiler may say, you know what, it may never go there. It's never going to go there, and not even let you know about it. Now, this command function right here called inline means that whatever lines of code I'm writing here, replace it where the function is. So let's write this out, and then I'll get into more detail in a second, okay? Okay, this is for debug purposes, let's say, okay? Now let's output, go down a new line, play again, tell them to put 0 for no, or 1 for yes, and go down another line. Now we want to create the variable, and then get their, create the variable, and then get their input. Okay, so now we'll test it. If v is equal to, just return v. That's my mistake, sorry. I'm not going to do no error checking there because the code's getting long, but I want you to take a good look at that function. There's something wrong with it. There's no error checking. And what I mean by that is you've asked the user to enter a 0 or 1, and your game logic depends on there being a 0 or 1 entered. What happens if they enter a 2 or a 5 or a 9 or an F? Okay, so put like this. I want you to do it. Make it a little exercise. See if the guess is less than 1 or the guess is greater than. With the or, I want you to write that if statement in here, and then to either go back up to here to again. So you can say if it's not, then go to again. Alright, I have it written down properly, but I want you to play around with it and figure that's the only way you're going to learn anything. So I've omitted the if statement. Do the if check. Alright, we're going to leave it like this because as the programmer we know what to expect. So let's get to the inline function. Inline, what that means is this whole function right here is going to be put in and replacing wherever you make the function call. So right here where it says return play again, this is going to be erased and it's going to put this whole function line for line in that spot. This is an optimization technique. Now your compiler can choose to ignore that. Keep this in mind. Doing that is going to speed up your code but make your file size larger, as it every time we put in play again, it's going to recompile this code instead of just making the call to that location in memory where your program is in and running from. So each time we've typed that, we're going to increase the size of our program by the size of this function. I don't know if that makes sense to some of you now. Just believe me in what I'm saying. Inline, use it very carefully. Never use it on a function any larger than this. I have a rule that I use for myself. If it's larger than 3 to 5 lines, do not make it inline. If there's any sort of logic involved, do not make it inline. But I wanted to teach you about it. I was going to do it on this function, but I thought, you know what, that's too long. It's going against everything I'm saying. So I'm putting it on the smallest function we have here, the inline function for play again. So that's the function I chose to teach you using. The if statement is actually game logic, believe it or not. So you're not going to want to really make that inline. Anything that just says, okay, if we wrote it exactly the way you see it, this would be perfect for inline. No doubt about it. 4 lines of code, really, this is not really code. It's like an address handler that you use the goto function to seek out. But anyway, just keep that in mind, alright? Any game logic, if statements, things like that, you're gonna not want to make it inline. Otherwise, if it's small like this with no logic, go ahead. I blabbed on about that long enough. Let's move on to the last function, which does not return a value because we used dynamic memory to do it. So now we're going to show menu. Alright. It's an integer, it's a pointer. We never gave it a name up top, if you remember, because it doesn't actually matter. We can give it a name here, a menu. Okay. Now we're going to make that system call again. Let's clear the screen for the menu. Every time we put the menu up, we'll clear everything else out of there. Give the menu a fresh start. Okay, now we want to tell it what the options are. Okay. Now, when you create your game logic up here, you're saying, okay, guess, you got 5 tries to guess 200, or 20 to guess 500. Now we're writing the game manually here, the menu options. So when you decide, okay, you know what, I want to change this, and the 10 is 5, but 200 is 5, let's give them 200, give them 10 tries. You need to also edit down here to tell them you're going to get 10 tries for that option. Otherwise, it's not going to update because I didn't use global variables because the way I've done it. Alright, so we're going to say your option 1, easy mode. Okay. Guess 1 to 10 in 5 tries. Alright. New line. Okay. 2, medium. Guess 1 to 200 in 5 tries. Option number 3. Hard. Guess 1 to 500 in 20 tries. Now, as you play this game, you're gonna realize, you know what, these are not really hard. But you can change it. I want you to tinker with it, mess around with it, and make it your own. All right, number 4. Kind of like Suicide Wings. It's beyond hard or beyond hot. We're gonna call it yeah right. Guess 1 to 2,000 in 30 tries. I don't recall if I set it to 30. Did I? Yeah, I did. 30 is probably a bit much, but we'll leave it like that. Alright, now we need